Now that we've determined that Orion telescopes can free up $200,000 of available capital by outsourcing production of one of their components of production, we need to figure out what can they do with that newly freed up capital. And they have 6 potential projects that they can undertake with the capital they freed up from outsourcing production. In real practice, companies will have much more than 6, but for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to do 6 separate projects to choose from here. In order to determine what is the best one, we're going to have to use some managerial decision-making techniques like payback, ARR, and NPV. And to do those, we're going to need certain information. For each of our potential projects, we are going to need the initial investment required to undertake that project, any residual value associated with that project. So if we need to buy equipment specifically for that project, what we can scrap it for at the end of its life. And speaking of life, how many years we think each project is going to provide us net cash inflows for. And then lastly, what the expected net cash inflow is for each year of that project's respective useful life. So we have all of this information for projects A, B, C, D, E, and F. How do we whittle this down? How do we figure out what projects are the best? Well, the way to do it is to start with your screening techniques, and the one I'm going to start with is the payback method. So for the payback method, we're going to figure out how long each of these mutually exclusive potential projects is going to take for this company, Orion, to recoup their initial investment. Let's start with Project A. What was the initial investment of Project A? Well, if we go to our Info tab, we see that undertaking Project A is going to cost Orion Telescopes $200,000 up front. And then we have the annual net cash inflows from this particular project, which we go back to our Info tab, and it tells us that Project A is going to provide $40,000 equal cash inflows for all 6 years of the project's life. So I'm going to click on the first one and hit enter. And then when I'm here, I can use the fill handle in the bottom right hand corner to fill in the other 5 $40,000 cash inflows. And now that we have each of the annual cash inflows, we need to determine what the accumulated cash inflows will be at the end of each year of the project's life in order to determine when Orion Telescopes will get paid back their initial investment by this project. So after year 1, we'll have just that $40,000 inflow. After year 2, we'll have made $40,000 in year 1 and $40,000 in year 2 for a total of $80,000. After year 3, we'll take the $80,000 that we had made previously and add on another $40,000 in cash inflows, which came in year 3. And by this process, we're just going to keep adding $40,000 to our accumulated net cash inflows for this project after each year. And the question at hand for the payback method is, when will Orion recoup its initial investment? Well, if we go to our accumulated column here, we see that after year 5, we'll have accumulated a total of $200,000 of cash inflows. And that $200,000 of cash inflows that we are accumulating is exactly equal to their initial investment. Which means that is the point in this project's life when Orion will get paid back. So Project A's payback period is 5 years. Let's move on to Project B. For Project B, what was our initial investment according to our information? Project B costs $140,000 to undertake. The annual expected net cash inflows from undertaking Project B are $35,000 a year, and they are equal for all 6 years of the project's life. So I'm going to hit enter and fill handle in the remaining 5 equal cash inflows of $35,000. And now I can find out the accumulated net cash inflows after each year of the project's life. After year 1, it'll just be the $35,000. After year 2, we will have collected $35,000 previously and $35,000 during the current year for a total of $70,000. And after year 3, we will have had $70,000 previously and another $35,000 for that year of the project's life, bringing our total accumulated net cash inflows up to $105,000. And then each subsequent year, we're just going to continue to add $35,000 to the inflows from this project. So what point will Project B pay back Orion's initial investment? Well, they're paying $140,000 up front. And as we check our accumulated column, we see that the total accumulated net cash inflows of Project B will be $140,000 at the end of year 4. So the payback period for project B is 4 years. And we're just going to do this for all of their projects. So let's go on to project C. Project C had an initial investment of $80,000. Let's say equals, go back to our info tab and bring over that $80,000 initial investment. The annual cash inflows from project C are $22,500 a year for 4 years of the project's life. So I'm going to enter on the first one and then fill handle in just those 4 inflows. So what are the total accumulated cash inflows for each year of this project's life? After year 1, they will have brought in $22,500 in total. They will add another $22,500 in inflows during year 2, bringing up to $45,000 in total. After year 3, they will be up to $67,500, and after year 4, they will be up to $90,000. So at what point will project C pay itself back? This one's not quite as easy because when we check our accumulated column, we don't have a number that's exactly equal to $80,000. So how do we figure out what the payback period is for project C? We'll go to your accumulated and find the closest number that you can in accumulated net cash inflows to your initial investment without exceeding your initial investment, which means for this case, the $67,500 we have after year 3 is as close as we can get to $80,000 without going over. So it's going to take at least 3 years to get paid back. But it won't take 4 because at the end of year 4, we're going to have $90,000 in inflows, which means that some point during year 4, we're going to get paid back our initial investment, but it's not going to take the entire year. So it's going to take us 3 years and a portion of that 4th year. To figure it out, what you do is take the full number of years you know you need, we need 3, and figure out what portion of that last year you need by taking the difference between your highest accumulated cash inflows that don't exceed your initial investment and your initial investment. So $80,000 minus $67,500. And then you go and you divide that by the cash inflows of that period. And the cash inflows for that period were $22,500. And when we put that in, we get 3.56 years. So it's going to take us 3 whole years and 5/9, if you will, of that 4th year to get paid back. Project C's payback period is 3.56 years. Moving on to our next project, which is Project D. If we go into our info, Project D has an initial investment of $200,000. What are the annual net cash inflows related to Project D? Well, we go back to our info, and Project D has irregular inflows. It's going to bring in more cash inflow in the first couple of years of the project's life than it will later. It's $120,000 in year 1, $80,000 in year 2, $60,000 in year 3, and $20,000 in the 4th and final year of this project's life. So I'm going to click the first one and fill handle in those 4 years. Now we need to figure out our accumulated inflows, so we'll have $120,000 after year 1. After year 2, we will add another $80,000 to our total, and we'll have $200,000. After year 3, we'll add another $60,000 to our running accumulated total, bringing it up to $260,000. And then that last year, we're going to bring in one final inflow of $20,000, bringing the total accumulated net cash inflows related to Project D up to $280,000. So at what point does Project D get paid back? Firstly, check your accumulated column to see if there's a number that is exactly the same as your initial investment, and there is. Project D will take a whole whopping 2 years to get paid back. The payback period in Project D is 2 years. Project E, we're going to go back to our info to find its initial investment. The initial investment required for Project E is $160,000. And then for our annual net cash inflows, Project E also has irregular inflows. It's going to bring us $40,000 in inflows the first 2 years, dropping to $30,000 for the next 2 years, and then dropping again to $20,000 for the 5th and 6th year of this project's life. So I'm going to click on the first cash inflow, hit enter to bring it over, and fill handle in all 6 of those inflows. There we go. Now we need to figure out our accumulated. It's just the $40,000 after year 1. After year 2, we will be adding another $40,000 in inflows to the $40,000 we earned in year 1, bringing it up to a total of $80,000. After year 3, we're going to add in another $30,000, bringing it up to $110,000. Year 4 is another $30,000, bringing it up to $140,000, and then we have two $20,000 inflows in years 5 and 6, bringing Project E's total accumulated net cash inflows up to $180,000 over the project's life. Well, at what point do they get paid back? Again, check to see if there's a number exactly equal to your initial investment in your accumulated net cash inflows column, and there is. We see right here we have $160,000, which is equal to the initial investment of Project E. So Project E's payback period is 5 years. Moving on to the last project that we have to analyze with the payback period. Project F has an initial investment of $60,000. The annual inflows from Project F are irregular, and they are increasing. So it's $10,000 in the first year, $20,000 in the second year, and $40,000 in the third year. Bring over our first inflow. We're going to handle in those last 2 years, and now we're going to figure out the accumulated net cash inflows of this project. And we do so again by taking what we had before and adding the current year's annual cash inflows to it. So it'll be $30,000 after year 2, and then $70,000 after year 3. So at what point will they be paid back on Project F? Check to see if we have that exact number in our accumulated column, and we do not. So we find the closest number we can get to without exceeding our initial investment, which is going to be the end of the second year. And at some point during this third year, we're going to make enough inflows to get up to $60,000. But if we use the whole year, we would exceed our initial investment, going to $70,000. So it's going to be 2 years and a portion of that third year. So to figure that out again, you take the whole amount of years you know you need, which is 2, and then add to it the amount of inflows you need. So they need $60,000 to get back to their initial investment. They will have $30,000 at the end of year 2. So they need the difference, $30,000, during year 3. Well, it's divided by year 3's inflows of $40,000, and we come up with 2.75 years. It's going to take 2.75 years for Project F to bring in the $60,000 of net cash inflows that Orion is going to need to get paid back on their initial investment of $60,000. So now that we have the payback period for each of our potential projects, we need to eliminate the ones that don't satisfy our company's requirement. And every company will have a certain time period in place for Orion telescopes. Their maximum payback period is 4 years. If a project takes more than 4 years to get paid back, they are unwilling to accept that potential project. And as we look through our respective payback periods for each of these projects, Project A has a payback period of 5 years. And I'm going to use the bad filter on this thing as soon as I get to it. There we go. Project A is no good, and Orion telescopes should reject Project A on the basis that it failed their payback screening test. Project B is 4 years, that's the max, they're okay there. Project C is 3.56, that's less than 4, they're okay there. Project D is at 2, that's looking very nice at this point, that's less than 4 years, they're definitely good. Oh, Project E. Project E has a payback period which exceeds their maximum requirement and therefore is unacceptable by Orion telescopes, and it's going to be rejected and removed from consideration. Project F, with its payback period of 2.75 years, is below their maximum amount allowed, which means Orion telescopes is still in the running to take on Project F, but they're not going to do so until they do a few more advanced screening techniques. So 2 are gone, and 4 projects, B, C, D, and F, still remain.